Hit. 15 January 2016. NFC Divisional Playoffs. Arizona Cardinals versus Green Bay Packers in what would become known as the Hail Larry game. Jared Abbrederis caught a pass crossing the middle when Tyrann Mathieu, weighing just 190 pounds and undersized for a safety position, delivered a hit with perfect timing that sent the receiver's mouthpiece flying from his helmet. The football popped loose immediately, and Arizona recovered to end the drive, shifting momentum in a game the Cardinals would win to advance to the NFC Championship. Mathieu's size created a physics disadvantage that he overcame through leverage mechanics by staying low on approach and driving upward through Abbrederis's center of gravity, transferring maximum momentum through proper impulse despite his actual weight. When defensive players execute hits at full speed, the collision force depends on three critical elements. Speed generates initial kinetic energy, mass amplifies the impact through momentum transfer, and timing eliminates the receiver's ability to brace for contact. These factors combine to produce the most violent legal collisions in modern football, hits that have sparked rule changes, altered careers, and generated ongoing debates about player safety. Hit 14. December 2017. Pittsburgh versus Cincinnati, in a rivalry defined by decades of physical hatred between franchises. Vontaze Burfict had built a reputation as one of football's most feared and penalized hitters, with multiple suspensions marking his career for dangerous contact. Juju Smith-Schuster, a rookie receiver weighing 215 pounds, saw Burfict pursuing downfield and positioned himself to deliver a crackback block that dropped the 248-pound linebacker instantly, leaving him motionless on the field. Smith-Schuster stood over Burfict and taunted him, drawing flags for both the illegal block and unsportsmanlike conduct. The NFL suspended Smith-Schuster for one game and fined him $17,363, though many fans viewed the hit as justified retaliation against Burfict's history of illegal hits. Burfict suffered a concussion and missed the next game. The collision demonstrated the rivalry's intensity, while also showing how technique and timing can overcome significant size disadvantages, with Smith-Schuster's 215-pound frame generating enough force to concuss a player 33 pounds heavier through proper execution of an admittedly illegal block. Hit 13. February 2016. Super Bowl 50 at Levi's Stadium. Denver Broncos versus Carolina Panthers with the championship on the line and approximately 1 billion viewers watching worldwide. Fourth quarter action saw Cam Newton, Carolina's 6'5" and 245-pound quarterback, scrambling from the pocket while searching for a game-changing play as Von Miller, Denver's all-pro defensive end, pursued with relentless focus. Miller caught Newton from behind and drove through him with maximum force, stripping the football on impact while it bounced free across the turf and players dove from every direction. Denver recovered the fumble in what became the defining play of the game, effectively securing the championship for the Broncos, while Miller was named Super Bowl MVP primarily for that singular collision. Newton sat on the ground processing how his title hopes died in a single moment of superior violence. The hit exemplified how championships often turn on individual moments when pursuit angle and technique combine perfectly, with Miller's strip sack fundamentally altering both the game's outcome and cementing his legacy as one of the era's premier pass rushers. Hit 12. November 2016. Seattle Seahawks versus New England Patriots. Rob Gronkowski, standing 6'6" and weighing 265 pounds as one of the NFL's most dominant tight ends, caught a pass and turned upfield when Earl Thomas, Seattle's all-pro safety, accelerated and connected with Gronkowski's midsection, using his shoulder in what became one of the hardest clean hits in NFL history. Gronkowski stayed down for several minutes during medical examination, before walking off slowly while clearly protecting his ribcage, with initial reports suggesting bruising, but the actual diagnosis revealing a punctured lung that would sideline him for 4 weeks. The NFL reviewed the play extensively and confirmed 0 violations, as Thomas had executed perfect tackling form with no helmet leading and proper shoulder placement, yet still generated sufficient force to cause serious internal injury. Thomas expressed genuine remorse afterward, despite doing everything correctly by the rulebook, while Gronkowski publicly praised Thomas for clean play, even while recovering from the injury. This hit exemplified football's fundamental danger, where legal technique and rule compliance don't eliminate catastrophic injury risk. demonstrating that rules designed primarily to prevent head trauma don't address all potential harm inherent to the sport's violent nature. Hit 11, September 2018. Chicago Bears versus Green Bay Packers in the season opener at Lambeau Field. Khalil Mack, recently acquired by Chicago and weighing 270 pounds of explosive power, dominated the first half with relentless pressure that culminated in a hit on Aaron Rodgers that sent the Packers quarterback to the locker room clutching his knee. Everyone watching assumed Rodgers' season had ended, with Packers fans devastated and Bears fans celebrating what appeared to be a division-changing injury. Then, Rodgers returned in the second half wearing a knee brace and orchestrated a 20-point comeback victory in what became one of the most legendary performances in his career. The moment transcended the hit itself, but Mack's impact mattered beyond the narrative by generating enough force to injure one of football's most durable quarterbacks, with Rodgers playing through obvious pain the entire remaining season as his knee never fully healed. The hit demonstrated Mack's immediate impact in Chicago, while also showing how elite quarterbacks can overcome significant injury through mental toughness and exceptional skill. Though the long-term consequences of playing through such injuries remain a concern for player health advocates. Hit 10, January 2016. AFC Wildcard Playoff Game. Pittsburgh Steelers versus Cincinnati Bengals, with intense rivalry history and playoff implications creating maximum tension. Antonio Brown caught a pass over the middle in the fourth quarter, when Vontaze Burfict launched himself and connected directly with Brown's helmet using his shoulder, causing Brown to go completely limp before hitting the ground, unconscious on impact. The stadium fell silent as medical staff sprinted onto the field with trauma equipment, while Brown remained motionless for over 3 minutes before consciousness returned, leaving him completely disoriented and unable to identify his location or the game situation. Brown was diagnosed with a severe concussion and missed the next playoff game, while Burfict received a 3-game suspension and a $50,000 fine from the NFL. This collision changed league rules permanently, as the NFL implemented stricter targeting penalties specifically because of this hit, while Burfict's continuing pattern of dangerous hits eventually resulted in his permanent ban from professional football in 2019. Brown's career trajectory and public behavior noticeably changed after this concussion, with many observers noting personality shifts that may have been connected to the brain trauma sustained on this play. Hit 9, November 2018. Pittsburgh Steelers versus Carolina Panthers on Thursday Night Football, with a national audience watching. Christian McCaffrey, one of football's most elusive running backs, caught a swing pass and accelerated upfield when Bud Dupree, the Steelers linebacker, met him with a perfectly timed hit that sent both players to the ground. McCaffrey's helmet separated completely from his head on impact and spun through the air while the football popped loose. But McCaffrey somehow maintained possession despite losing his helmet and stayed down for over a minute before rising slowly. The hit was controversial because while replays showed Dupree targeted McCaffrey's chest rather than his head, the violence of the impact and the helmet separation created the appearance of an illegal hit. McCaffrey received recognition from both fan bases for the toughness displayed in maintaining possession through such a violent collision. The play highlighted ongoing debates about how referees should judge hits when legal technique produces devastating results, with officials tasked with determining intent and execution rather than outcome severity, creating inevitable inconsistencies in penalty calling across the league when identical techniques produce vastly different visual results depending on player size, speed, and collision angle. Hit 8, January 2016. AFC Championship Game. Denver Broncos versus New England Patriots at Sports Authority Field at Mile High. Rob Gronkowski, already established as the league's premier tight end at 6'6" and 265 pounds, caught a pass and turned upfield when Darian Stewart, Denver's safety, launched himself and connected with Gronkowski's helmet in what officials initially allowed to stand without penalty during the game. Gronkowski was evaluated for potential head injury, but cleared protocol and continued playing, finishing the game with 144 yards and 2 touchdowns in a losing effort for New England. The NFL later reviewed the play and fined Stewart $18,000 for the illegal helmet-to-helmet contact, despite no in-game penalty being assessed. This hit sparked debate about officials missing obvious penalties in critical playoff moments, and whether post-game fines adequately address player safety when dangerous hits aren't penalized during games. The inconsistency in real-time officiating versus post-game review continues to frustrate players, coaches, and fans who argue that player safety requires immediate enforcement rather than retroactive punishment that doesn't change game outcomes or protect players in the moment when illegal contact occurs. Hit 7. The Packers-Bears rivalry between 2014 and 2015 produced countless violent collisions that exemplified NFC North football at its most physical. Clay Matthews, Green Bay's all-pro linebacker known for aggressive hits, regularly pursued Chicago running back Matt Forte across the middle of the field, where Bears tight end Martellus Bennett also operated, creating frequent multiplayer collisions from different angles. These encounters became defining moments of the rivalry, with all three players absorbing and delivering punishment that left them requiring assistance to reach the sideline, limping off clearly compromised or visibly shaken after contact. The cumulative violence of these matchups demonstrated how football's danger emerges from unexpected combinations when multiple players converge at the wrong moment, with no single player violating rules, yet the collective result proving severe. Matthews dealt with recurring groin and hamstring injuries during this period, while Forte and Bennett absorbed countless hits crossing the middle, highlighting how the inherent danger exists even when everyone follows proper technique and regulations within the framework of legal play. Hit 6. December 2012. Seattle Seahawks versus San Francisco 49ers in what would become known as one of Kam Chancellor's most famous hits. Chancellor, Seattle's 232-pound safety nicknamed Bam Bam for his devastating tackling style, delivered a hit on 49ers tight end Vernon Davis that exemplified his reputation for violence within legal parameters. Davis caught a pass crossing the middle and turned upfield when Chancellor lowered his shoulder and exploded through Davis's chest with perfect technique, no helmet leading, and no targeting violations. Davis went down hard from the impact and was ruled out for the remainder of the game with a concussion, never returning to action that day. Chancellor's hitting style combined superior positioning with 232 pounds of precisely timed force, making him one of the most feared safeties of his era. The NFL used hits like this in training materials to demonstrate how to deliver devastating tackles within legal boundaries, showing defensive players how proper leverage and timing can compensate for technique rather than relying on dangerous head-first contact. Chancellor's career was defined by these types of hits that walked the line between aggressive legal play and dangerous contact. Hit 5. September 2016. Carolina Panthers versus Denver Broncos in the NFL season opener featuring a Super Bowl 50 rematch. Panthers quarterback Cam Newton absorbed multiple helmet-to-helmet hits from Denver defenders throughout the game, including illegal contact from Brandon Marshall and Darian Stewart, with officials failing to throw flags despite obvious violations visible on replays. Newton's head was snapped backward violently on several occasions, yet no penalties were called during the game despite clear violations of quarterback protection rules. Newton showed symptoms of head trauma, but was not removed for concussion protocol evaluation during the contest, sparking widespread controversy about officiating inconsistency and player safety enforcement. The NFL later acknowledged that officials had missed multiple obvious penalties that should have been called to protect Newton. This game led to a massive overhaul in how the league monitors concussion protocol and trains officials to identify illegal hits in real time. The controversy reignited debates about whether officials apply different standards for quarterback protection depending on the player involved, with many observers noting that similar hits on other quarterbacks routinely drew flags and fines. Hit 4. November 2013. Seattle Seahawks versus Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football. Percy Harvin, playing for Seattle after being traded from Minnesota, returned to face his former team when he fielded the opening kickoff and was met by multiple Vikings defenders converging simultaneously. The collision was violent enough that Harvin's helmet twisted and shifted dramatically on his head, nearly separating completely in what became one of the most visually striking hits of the season. Harvin continued playing through the game but was later diagnosed with a concussion that forced him out of Seattle's next playoff game against New Orleans. The play exemplified the dangerous nature of kickoff returns, where defenders build maximum momentum before colliding with returners who have limited ability to protect themselves. Harvin had a history of chronic migraine conditions that predated this specific hit and would contribute significantly to his eventual early retirement from football. though the accumulation of head impacts during his career exacerbated these pre-existing conditions, alongside persistent hip injuries that limited his effectiveness and playing time across multiple seasons with different teams. Hit 3. January 2014, NFC Championship game. Seattle Seahawks versus San Francisco 49ers with a Super Bowl berth on the line. Kam Chancellor delivered multiple signature hits throughout the game, including a crucial interception of Colin Kaepernick and devastating collisions with 49ers receivers that became part of Seattle's dominant defensive performance. Chancellor's most famous hit from this era came the following week in Super Bowl 48 against Denver's Earl Thomas, a collision that became widely used in NFL training videos to demonstrate proper tackling technique combined with maximum legal force. Chancellor's physicality defined Seattle's Legion of Boom defense that used aggressive hitting within legal boundaries to intimidate opponents and control games through force. Seattle's defensive philosophy during this era relied on pushing the boundaries of legal contact while executing fundamentally sound technique that protected players from penalty flags, even as they delivered punishing hits. This approach proved controversial, as opponents complained about Seattle getting away with overly physical play, while Seattle argued they simply executed better technique than other defenses. The success of this strategy helped Seattle win Super Bowl 48 and reach Super Bowl 49 consecutively. Hit 2. October 2014. St. Louis Rams versus San Francisco 49ers at the Edward Jones Dome. Rams defensive end Robert Quinn hit 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick as he released a pass, with the impact sending Kaepernick to the ground hard, though no penalty was called on the play. Kaepernick absorbed 6 total sacks that night, with Quinn recording 2 of them, clearly affected by the accumulation of hits throughout the game as the Rams' defensive line dominated completely. This hit represented the type of legal but punishing quarterback pressure that defensive coordinators design into game plans, using speed rushers to hit quarterbacks even when unable to prevent pass completion. The hit exemplified how modern defenses adapted to stricter roughing the passer rules by focusing on legal contact that still disrupts quarterback timing and confidence without drawing penalties. Quinn's ability to hit quarterbacks legally while maintaining pass rush effectiveness made him one of the era's premier edge defenders, recording double-digit sacks in multiple seasons. The accumulation of these types of hits over a career contributes to the long-term health concerns facing quarterbacks, even when individual hits don't cause immediate injury. Hit 1. October 2013. Green Bay Packers versus Cleveland Browns. Packers tight end Jermichael Finley caught a pass over the middle when Browns safety Tashawn Gipson delivered a hit that resulted in Finley suffering a severe spinal injury, with Finley staying motionless on the field for an extended period while medical staff attended to him with extreme caution. Finley was immobilized and transported directly to a hospital, where he was diagnosed with a bruised spinal cord, an injury serious enough to end his season immediately, and ultimately, his NFL career at just 26 years old. The hit was ruled legal under existing rules, as Gipson had targeted Finley's torso rather than his head. Yet the resulting injury demonstrated how even legal hits can produce career-ending consequences when the angle and force combine in particularly dangerous ways. Finley would attempt a comeback, but never played another NFL game, with the spinal injury risk deemed too significant to continue his career despite his desire to return. This hit occurred during an era when the NFL was implementing stricter protections for defenseless receivers, though the rules still permitted body contact that could result in severe injuries to areas beyond the head and neck.